Hello, and welcome to the last episode of The Making of Second Chance Heroes by Rocket City Studios. The last in terms of the bunker, that is. There's still one more series after this one, so stay tuned for that. We are in the Missile Crisis Part 2. I, of course, Eli Platt, lead level designer, and we are going to just jump right into this one. So we've already seen the first Missile Crisis level where we've dealt with the small missiles, so let's take a look at the Missile Crisis number 2 where we deal with the large missiles. That's right. It's go time. And we've also noticed they're having a bit of a definite missile crisis here, where a lot of the missiles have fallen over and smashed their way through the scenery. As I said before, and I will reiterate, we did not have any kind of physics engine to do this sort of stuff, so anytime we do any of the crazy physics stuff like this, it's not really physics, it's just the hand adjustment of all kinds of things. So we've got this nice little collapsed walkway here. To do the walkthrough, you start over in the safe room, which is just a segment of walkway. You head on out into the missile area. There's a little tangent over here and a little tangent right here. You get to where these missiles have leaned together, taking out the support post, allowing the entire walkway to drop down, which allows you a convenient ramp to get down to the lower level. So down here you've got a nice, well, not a nice view, but a view of all the kind of destruction going on there. You get to hook around over here to one of these cement platforms where you'll fight an encounter where you dodge bombs, and you can see there's some little missiles stored in trucks and giant waste toxic sludge things. I'm going to hide the decals so we can get a nice clean view here. You come up to the second platform where you can then finally climb up to the run towards the final boss. Now we've got another missile here leaning through, smashing through that walkway. So at this point, really, if Ward sets these missiles off, it's going to be bad for everybody, because they're just going to blow up here in the hangar instead of going all the way to their intended targets, which would also be terrible. So we definitely want to stop Ward at this point. Here's the big giant collapse, so this missile has just collapsed through and basically completely mangled all of the walkway here. It's all smashed and bent, and again, no custom models, no custom physics, everything just precariously angled and set up to do exactly what it looks like it is, collapsing. Alright, let's just get a nice good look down here. From some of these angles we might be missing a few faces, but you can see all of that sort of destruction there, where it's just been completely destroyed. Alright. Now this was never intended to be the last level, it was intended to be the next to last level. But the last two levels of the game were cut, and they will be in the Lost Level Pack. So at this point, there was originally a barricade here and a barricade here, and you weren't ever intended to go this way. But apparently that was a bit open to interpretation, as Alex, who was having a blast scripting this level, was the first level in the game that he scripted, decided to add into this space, which was actually just camera buffer space originally. He built out here, and so we had to add more onto the level, so all of this over here was added on as additional buffer space after Alex's scripting adventure out onto the platforms. But that's okay, because he added a lot of cool little laser encounters and things over here, where before you can proceed to the boss through these gates, you have to come out, dodge lasers, fight zombies. You get a nice look at this big giant pile of containers there, which is kind of interesting, and then you get to the ward structure once you work your way back around this collapsed missile here. Alright, so it's like a giant circuit board on the ground of all the wires that are all laid under the level. You can see them there. They're actually on top of the floor, hooking all of the missiles together. You can see them all kind of coming into this big giant tower. Now at one point we were going to make a special model for this tower. We never did do that. I don't know if it was deliberately avoided or if we just ran out of time or what happened there, but we never did make it. But we did make these custom circuits on the interior. They went through several revisions as well, and there was also an underneath of this area that was a bit different design before, with just the regular static items that we have placed throughout all the bunker. But essentially this is the Ward brain. You're inside of Ward's head, and you're trying to effectively disable this, and he sends all of his killer robots after you, which is pretty much the only time you see them. We may or may not have put them in the last 2 levels of the game had we ever scripted them, but they are not scripted, and these robots only show up in this encounter. After fighting for a while in this room, Ward eventually breaks through this giant destroyable wall as a giant death robot, and eventually you kill him, destroying all the circuitry and rescuing the world from zombies, aliens, and giant killer robots, and werewolves and vampires and plausibly mummies in the future. But you didn't hear from me. No, I don't know that we're going to do the museum at this point, but that's alright, because if we do anything else, I'm sure it'll be great. Alright. So yeah, there's a big giant Ward TV. I know that the camera comes up to about here, so you can see Ward talking before he bursts out of the wall. And that brings us to the end of the game. So building this level, we definitely wanted to do a missile silo, but we couldn't wrap around a giant tall missile because we didn't have any way to rotate the camera. So I sort of had to reinterpret the idea of a missile silo and built this giant grid. Of course, I didn't want it to be just a giant grid, and so instead of just building piles of stuff, which we did in some places here, I went out and I knocked over a bunch of these missiles to destroy the walkways and prevent the players from just kind of going anywhere they want in a very boring grid-like pattern. And so we ended up with the missiles tilted and all of this kind of interesting stuff. This space out here on the pillars was to sort of give some perspective of the structure that you are walking on. So you go down and you come back up and you get to see some of the different layers edge on to the missile sort of battery facility. And then you get to come back up and you get to go through all this major destruction, which is kind of interesting. There's really nothing over here to see, just the regular missiles. No need to knock them over because you can't really see that far. Miscellaneous random zombies scattered all over the place. But yeah, so that wraps things up for the levels that are in the game. Hope you enjoyed these series of videos, the making of the mall, the making of the hobo colony, and the making of the bunker from a level designer's perspective. I'm going to be making a few, not quite let's plays, but a few playthroughs of some of my favorite levels to stick up on my portfolio site, so you should be able to find those on my YouTube channel as well. I'm going to do the first Molrog level, I'm going to do the beer level, the mushroom level, and probably the first missile level, and at that I'll probably leave it. Maybe sometime down the road I'll do a few more levels when I have some spare time, but at least those 4 will be up on my YouTube channel and portfolio website. And of course, after this series, I'll be posting a series all about the levels, the lost levels. There are a great number, one that may be a great number, but there are at least 8 or 9 levels that we built outside of the regular levels that are in the game. Some of them are scripted enough to kind of do a playthrough, even though they're very rough draft, so you can see some of the things that we were going to do in there. We'll talk about all kinds of fun things like bosses that were cut from the game, story that was cut from the game, references, and all kinds of Easter eggs. So I don't know if there's a special name for that, but an Easter egg that's in a level that's not in the game, like a super Easter egg, and the only place you're going to be able to see that, unless of course someone steals my videos and puts them somewhere else, which I guess they could do, it doesn't really affect me, but the only place you're going to see them is here on my Lost Levels videos. So I hope you're looking forward to that, and I'll see you next time.